So what we are doing today, I'm we're kind of going to take it a little easier. The mic is open, stage is open for right now. We're just kind of waiting on people, so feel free to come up and say hi. Keep things a little casual for a bit until we get some of our any of our regulars in the room. Let me make sure the hand permissions are up. Your hand permissions are on, so anyone's welcome to raise your hand, come up and just say hello if you're up for it. What I'm going to be doing today, we're going to do some chatting around. Well, we're going to do some updates on the brief that was posted this week. Talk a little about that. Also, going to talk just about taking action on our sync journeys. Um, Talk about some of the common questions I've been getting just about sync. I've been doing a little more. I've been doing some posting on TikTok and also on Instagram, and it's cool because I've been actually going live a little more. And both of those two, I'm going live on IG. I've been going live on uh, going live on IG and going live on TikTok. And I've been getting some cool kind of questions from folks that stuff that we kind of see, but you get a little more beginners in those spaces, and so it's been cool to just kind of hear where people are who have not started in sync or just kind of haven't heard some of the conversations that we have been having for the year. So I definitely want to share a little bit about that. I actually want to talk to Q for a second, see how he's doing because he's got some cool updates. What's going on, Q?
What's going on? I was gonna come up, but I'm out and about now, so I know I got a lot of noise in the background. At least I
Oh,
hear
it's
it.
all good. You might
But yeah,
come up later, but I was looking at your post and I know you were talking about the family business, so I wanted to give you a chance to kind of uh, talk about that and just how you're feeling about it.
yeah, feeling good. It was actually, I don't know if I told you this, but that's my first placement, personally.
Very
Um,
nice.
yeah, I think my partner, he's had a couple so far. Um, but yeah, appreciate you again, and got a chance to see the scenes and
You saw the scene. I haven't actually seen anything yet. I haven't been able to check it out just yet, and I have to. There's a show called The Family Business on BET Plus, and it's my first music supervision gig. I uh, I placed about it's like 10 or 11 songs, and a few of them are Control Camp members. And the show started airing this week, I believe, maybe the end of last week. But it's available now to stream, and I need to go through it because I need to also reconcile, make sure that that all the placements that I think happened, that they all happened, and know where they are. But Q actually, his song by his group Tape Pop was actually used in two different episodes. And so, did you see both of them, or did you just see one?
hold on, my bad. Yeah, I saw both of them. I at first I had missed the second one, but my partner he brought up to me. He showed me the scene. Like I had to get a B. I didn't know they had all the episodes. Like you just once you get the download the app, the BET Plus app, you get all the episode at once. So it wasn't a weekly thing. So yeah, I did find the second scene also.
Nice.
Get a chance to see it.
Yeah, so I haven't even checked it out yet, but I need to check it out. And also, I haven't notified all the people who've gotten placements on it quite yet because I want to actually verify the placements. But I'm glad you saw yours first. But like Psychosis is supposed to have one, and some other people in the camp and I'm outside of the camp. So I'm really excited about it because
Cool.
yeah, it's my first time, and it's cool for people like I think like you said that's your first placement. That's actually that really makes me happy, and so that's really really cool. So congratulations.
you, and congratulations to you also. You said it's your first music supervision gig, so congratulations on that.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Lisa Williams is on stage. So we're just um, doing a casual warm up right now while we get some people in the room. And we're going to kind of talk about some things. Y'all help me out. Hit that plus sign, ping people who might be going in now and let people know that the room is going on. Also, a cool thing you can do to help with promo now, if you're on your phone, you have access to the sound clip, which looks like a little, it's a highlight. It looks like a scissor at the bottom of your phone, right next to the plus sign. So, right next to where you ping, there's a scissor, and you can hit that anytime you hear a gem or a cool quote. If you hit it at that moment, it'll grab the last 30 seconds, which I think is cool. Um, because we actually were doing highlights, but we had like a team that would scrub all the old audio and try to find the right moments. And now, if you hear something, you can just hit the scissors. It's saved. It creates a graphic and everything, and you can post that to your stories, or you could just DM it to me, and we can have it for our own promo. So if anybody hears anything cool like that, and you snap it, it would help us out to spread the word. Pushing it that way, and if you don't want to post it yourself, you could send it, just DM it to me, because I like to collect highlights and use them for our promo. Lisa, how are you?
I'm good. I always want to say this group is just amazing. I see my partner in crime down there, John, and by just Eric, what you guys have done has just been amazing. So I just wanted to applaud you. I know we do that a lot, but I just know that we appreciate everything that you do, opportunity and honesty in this group, and so that's all I want to say, man. We love you, so I just wanted to say that, and we appreciate everything.
Oh, I appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. That means a lot. And thank you so much. Yeah, I see John. I see KZ. Brian, good to see all y'all in the room. Um, for some people, if anyone's new, I recognize most names. I see a couple of new names. So, just for the few names that I don't recognize, this is Control Camp. We are a community of sync licensing enthusiasts. So that means we're people who are involved one way or another in writing music for television, whether that's on the creator level or on the executive level. I am Eric Campbell. I'm your host. I am a songwriter, producer. I've been working in sync for about 10 years now, mostly writing and producing music. I have shows. I have music on lots of shows, from reality shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Love and Hip Hop, and Deadliest Catch, and things like that, to Revenge and Shameless, and different dramas. And I've worked on shows like Greenleaf and Step Up High Water, and placed a few ads, worked on some animations. And so what the purpose of what we do here is to exchange information, no matter what level you are. If you are currently writing and pitching songs, if you're just curious, you're learning, trying to learn about what sync is and how it works, we here every Wednesday from 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll do an hour or two here in this room, and then afterwards we'll start our after party, which is for Control Camp members only. In that room, we don't do as business so much. We more talk about just kind of social, getting to know one another. So if you want to see that room, we're forming a nice community, getting really good friendships in here. If you want to see that, hit the icon that's above my picture that looks like a greenhouse, and that'll let you follow the camp. And once you're following the camp, it'll show up in your hallway afterwards. So, got some really cool things you're planning. Well, I'm assuming most of you have been on the email list So you've been seeing some of the changes we've been talking about. Couple of things that I'm creating throughout the end of the year. We'll still be doing these rooms on Wednesdays. If you've been following me, you've been noticing that I've been going live on IG as well as TikTok, and it's been really cool because I've been finding people in both places that don't have some of the information that we might take for granted, and so my personal goal is to grow this community and very very soon, like in a matter of a month or two, actually take it off of Clubhouse. We'll still be on Clubhouse doing our room, but it'll be available to everyone. Controlcamp.com will not just be a website, but it'll actually be our own internal social network that we can all join, and we can get our briefs there, we can share music there, we can pitch music to it, and all the things that I'm pulling into that home. My intention is for all that to be free and available. I'm really really believe that um, there is so much opportunity in sync in general that we do not necessarily need a cost barrier to get access to the information, because we all benefit from an educated community base. The more of us that are there that understand how sync works, understands what one stops are, understands how split sheets should happen, understands how to use how covers work in sync, that understand how samples or loops or royalty free music should and should not be used. The more of us that understand that, the more collaborators we all can find, the more opportunities that are available for all of us, and the easier we'll be able to fill those opportunities by expanding our community. So I've got a really cool vision that excites me for where this goes, and I'm working hard now, pulling a team together to kind of help grow this to that, and get us a home on the web over the next month or two. We'll see how long it takes. I'm actually evaluating some software products right now, and so we'll see how long that takes to pull it together. But before the end of the year, we will have a home. We'll be able to do. We'll keep Clubhouse, but we'll be able to do Zooms and briefs and special collaborations and things that I'm really, really excited about. So let's do a couple things. I see a couple of new names, and we already talked to Q, but I always want to start just with the room. If there are any wins that we have not recognized since the last time we've chatted, or I just have not heard from. If there's anyone in the room who has actually placed music somewhere and you have not been on stage at some point to talk about it or to explain how you got it, we love to hear how people got the syncs that they got. So if you've ever had music on television, this would be a great time to raise your hand and share it with us if you can. Music in an ad, used in a game, or some other kind of win. Got a new relationship or a sync relationship, maybe with a sync agent or a library or something that you are excited about. I would love to hear it. Oh, I got a couple of hands coming up. Cool. All right, I see Tim on stage. How you doing, Tim?
Hey, Eric. Good to chat with you. I reached out to you on Instagram last week. Just want to say thanks for all that you're doing here. It's just remarkable this age that we live in, just to be able to connect like this.
I
I'm
agree.
going to date myself. I'm going to date myself, and my first sync was going to be 20 years ago this December on a show called Felicity on the WB network.
That is so cool.
Um, and uh, it's also my only sync. But I've done some songwriting and had a couple cuts here and there. But I've largely been in the marketing world for the last decade and a half. But really, just music's always been a passion, and continue to create and really want to start to get back into this industry and make relationships and just have fun doing it. I think that's something that along the way, it's been difficult sometimes to remember when you are trying to make a business out of it or make a living out of it. But it's so much fun whenever there's a community like this, when there's people who are having success, and when you can just learn from them.
I love what you said about trying to remember to have fun making it, and that's I find it. It's a challenge for me. I think it's a challenge for a lot of my um, peers, a lot of us, no matter what level you're at. I think always this is such a grind, and submitting to briefs all the time, and having to create on demand. Trying to remind yourself that hey, I actually get to create music. I guess you get to make something that's cool. I have to kind of stop and remind myself, you know, to be thankful for what that I even get the opportunity to pitch for what I pitch for. That I have the relationships that I have, and ultimately, I'm just grateful for it. And I try to remember that this is actually fun. Like making music is actually I'm here because I actually enjoy this. I appreciate that you said that. But share even I mean the Felicity that's awesome. So share how did that happen? It was 20 years ago, but how did it happen?
Yeah. Well, I live in Nashville, and so I was doing the rounds, just writing with a lot of people in town, and some of the people that I was writing with had publishing deals that were, I didn't at the time. I've always owned my own, and it's been, good and bad in various ways. But um, one of the bad ways is I don't have a lot of people pitching my own stuff, so I've got to find partners or tap into people who have that outlet or publishers that are going to be pitching it, which is why I'm so excited about this group. So I co-wrote the song with Natalie Hemby, who has gone on just to become just a powerhouse songwriter. But she's an old friend, and she was signed. I can't remember the publishing company she was with at the time, but it ended up going through Daisy Music. So Madonna Wade Reed and her team ended up placing it.
That is great. I love that. And so you said you do marketing now. Is it in a marketing in a way in fields that use music, or something totally outside of like ads or things like that?
It's outside of that. Yeah, it's more digital marketing. I've gone all corporate on myself.
No worries at all. They're very cool. I'm glad it's cool that you're here. Just part of the community, wanting to learn and grow. I appreciate having you here. Let me say what's up to Ryan while he's here. How's it going, Ryan?
How you doing, Eric? Really enjoy the rooms and the vibe you bring every.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Is this your first time on the stage?
I think so. I've been a lurker for many months, and I've been around, but I don't think I've ever been on this stage yet.
Oh, cool. So tell us about you and the music that you have gotten licensed. I see some things in your bio, but tell us about you.
Yeah. Well, my name's Ryan. I am an artist and also a session musician and gun for hire on the Jersey Shore. I'm a piano player, singer, songwriter, band leader, producer. I've thrown music festivals. I've done events. I've worked with people around the country, mostly in the live performance world. And I made a lot of really strong relationships on the production side of things. Because of my work as a session player, it allowed me to go in and out of a lot of different bands and meet a lot of great players and producers. And when the pandemic hit, it cut me off at my knees and forced me to understand the logistics of the business. And I spent a long time studying marketing, about 8 months, really diving into that and knowing how that piece of the business worked. And then I spent a long time diving into licensing, so that more so that I know that as I finish the material that I'm going to make anyway, I have a home for it at the end of that process, and I can wring as much money out of that hard work that my guys and myself do, to get that done. And I've been kind of preaching the word to a lot of other independent producers that I work with, both in my area in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and around the country. and have been building my pipeline and really enjoying the process and learning and growing and happy to contribute or help in any way I can.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, are you in Jersey? Is that where you are now in Jersey now?
I'm in Jersey now. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, appreciate you being here, and thanks so much for sharing. Glad to have you here. And so, um, would you share? I see a couple of different like oh no, I'm looking at hold on, let me go back to your profile. And so,
I was I was on Comedy Central this year for the first time.
so how did that come
Uh,
together?
that that came through a relationship with a luthier who is connected in with some guys who work with the Rick and Morty guys. It's I made it into a series. It was all personal relationships for that specific one, and I've actually carved a little niche for myself writing lyrics for cartoons. I've done a few gigs in the last year where I found myself on projects on that specific task. And I do a lot of production work closely tied with the video production guys, and making partnerships and kind of taking more ownership in the product up front in the hopes of kind of building something. I'm working on a YouTube series with a couple of stick figure puppeteers who make and design all their sets, and it's a small production team. I'm really interested in that kind of work. I love working with creatives on the ground level, and but that Comedy Central thing was, uh, it was a relationship I struck with a guy who was looking for a guy. I one day I posted a song of myself singing in a pirate voice for a gig I had down in Florida, and the guy saw it and he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a cartoon. I need someone with a pirate voice." So I did the gig. I met the guy, and then I showed myself during that time to be someone who also compose, who could also arrange. And I became his guy that he called when he had to flesh out ideas before he went to the studio. And we formed a relationship. I've done a bunch of gigs with him that some of them, because animation is such a slog, will be out in the next year or so. But it's a really cool relationship and a really interesting window into that side of the business, but very, very different than Sync in a lot of ways because it's a different kind of relationship.
Very cool, but yeah, like I love the stress on relationships. Is something I talk about all the time, and you learn the lingo and the vocabulary and the ways to write and how to research and do all these things. But at the end of the day, our biggest you know jobs. I was listening to a podcast today, um, and it was talking about this was not about music. It was just about entrepreneurs, whether you're a blogger or whatever you do. At the end of the day, sales is something that we all do. Pitching is something that we all do. Building relationships is something that we all do. And I kind of feel like I came late to that realization because it's only been the last couple of years that I've really kind of focused more on relationship. I've been a very introverted creator, very comfortable locking myself in the studio. And every time I hit a wall in my career, every time things did not connect, or I had to look up and say, okay, why am I still not making things happen? I always went to, I need to be better. I need to be faster. And so I would need to take a course or find, figure out how to work my DAW better, or I would always go back to like the create sharpening my skills creatively, which I'm glad that I've done. But I also have learned that I could have taken half of that time and put it towards just getting out of the room. It's before the pandemic where we could do everything online, but you know, even when I lived in Atlanta, I did not really take advantage of being in Atlanta and the ability to just be out and about and be in the clubs, which is where all the networking happens there. I was not really, I was at some spots, but I was not really that person that was out like every night all the time. And I really believe that if I would have put a little more effort into that, that I probably would have been farther along sooner. And so that's one of the reasons why I stress now, um, really focusing on relationships, really focusing on um, putting what you do out there, really focusing on branding yourselves. Everybody, some of us live two lives. Some of us, work a job and then come home and work in the studio. And I struggled with that. I worked as a project manager for an IT company for a number of years. And I liked it. I enjoyed it, but I also felt like I wasn't really being me. Like I would put on these khakis and business casual wear during the day, and then never felt like I was like really being myself, and then come home at night and lock myself in the studio and kind of be more creative there. But I think that while we're living the life we're living, it's also good to start thinking about the life we want to live and how we want to be seen and what we want people to know us as. So sometimes if you're working a job, if you are an accountant, during the day, but in your heart you want to be a musician or you want to be a songwriter, you want to write songs for TV, we sometimes feel guilty about meeting a stranger and they say, "What do you do?" And then saying, "Oh, I'm a songwriter. I write songs," because we feel like, okay, we might be telling an untruth because we're actually an accountant. But I feel like it's important to grab a hold of that identity as soon as you can. And we still have to, there's nothing wrong with living both lives, but if you want to be seen as a songwriter and you want to be walk fully in that songwriting, then say that. You can say, "Oh, I work for during the day, I work for KPMG, helping them with their software services. But really, I'm a songwriter and I'm working on writing music for television." Like that's just getting comfortable, putting that out there and saying that, and not keeping that dream or vision to yourself or holding it until you land something. I think is important to to putting out to all your community and friends and family and strangers you meet that I am available to do this work. I'm available to step into this um, life as soon as I can. And so um, I I went on a little tangent from what Ryan was talking about, but it's all connected to me. Kind of relationships, owning kind of who you are, owning your brand, and then putting it out there as soon as you possibly can, whether you are making the income you want to be making from that. I am still not making the income I want to be making from music, but I am happy to. I am a songwriter. I'm a producer. I say that everywhere. I've said it before I had any income coming in. I put my stamp on it as soon as I was able to. I wish I would have been comfortable stamping it sooner, but I'm thankful that I'm comfortable stamping it now and putting that brand on and say, and meeting a stranger when they say, "Hey," if I'm in an Uber and the Uber driver says, "Hey, what do you do?" I can say, "I write music for television," and I can say that comfortably and own it. And so I want that for all of those who want it, and no matter where you are financially or in your career, if this is the career you want, then have people start seeing you that way. What's up, Dadrian? I see you came to the stage.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, I guess I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, I was just, I guess agreeing with pretty much everything you just said. So it's pretty much me in that boat as well. And I know you've been doing this for a longer period of time, but a lot of the stuff I identify with, it's kind of like, imposter syndrome type of thing, and especially me with being introverted and not getting out there a lot of times. Me being shy kind of comes off as being like standoffish or not like part of the team or something like that. So it's like attacking that obstacle is something that I do daily as well. So,
I relate to what you're saying. The sometimes I'm introvert myself, and sometimes introverts or those of us who might be socially awkward sometimes. Like I talk real comfortably in here, and if you have seen me in person, because we already have this connection, I'm a lot more confident now, and I can be confident. But I definitely have been known to be very socially awkward in the past. And you catch me on the wrong day as a stranger, I have to kind of psych myself up and put my hat on and remember kind of who I am. And so I totally relate to that. Sometimes that feeling or that awkwardness um, can make us shy away from engaging with people, can make us shy away from putting out who we are or who we want to be. And like I said, you know, for you, a lot of you, some of you in the room met me as this. Some of you didn't. Some of you met me in 6FS when and so and those who didn't know me before then, um, I'm only a couple of years into really being like relationship gung ho. Like I'm an introvert who is sold on putting himself out there. And so I've had to make the conscious decision. I'm not an extrovert. It's not my natural mode. My natural mode is to lock myself in this room and just make music. And so I've just out of the frustration of not having my career going where I wanted it to go, I realized that, oh, I need to be talking to people. I need people to know who I am. And that frustration is forcing me out of my comfort zone. And then things like Control Camp, seeing how it's moved by primarily focusing on relationships has just encouraged me to keep doing that. So I'm still doing what's uncomfortable. I'm just getting more validation from doing it, but it's not my natural mode. It's never been my natural mode. So I appreciate you saying that, Dadrian, and hopefully that's encouraging as well. Thiraj, what up, homie?
Yo, man, I'm just out here trying to tap in with the cat, man. What y'all
Whatever.
talking about?
What?
What's up, y'all?
What part of the world are you in? I
Nah,
feel
man.
like for the last 4 weeks you have been like in a different state every week.
Bro, nah, this month has been crazy. I mean, I was in, we had the Colorado joint, the Durango. Shout out to everybody who slid through. And then right after that, I was in, I just got back from Nashville for the music bed artist party that they had. And I had a couple co-writes out there and stuff. Um, So yeah, man, I'm all around, man. I mean, I love it. I left my job for this. You know what I mean? So like, I'm a maximize this joint.
That is what's up. So are you back home now, or are you still out somewhere?
Yeah, no, I'm at home right now. I'm making a bacon, egg, and cheeseburger, and this is my first meal of the day.
That is funny.
Sad to say.
That is funny.
Yeah, man. I like what you were talking about, though. Like, I can relate to the bit as far as like the introversion. It's weird because I feel like even when I jumped on here, it was like, I'm all energy and all that kind of stuff. But, for the past couple years, I've had to grow to what you were saying, Eric, as far as like, I had to open up to be able to see, like, be comfortable with putting myself out there, be comfortable with like, trying to put myself in front of the right people and market myself and do all these other things that are, I was kind of forced into it, when I was signed with the label. I hate it, trying to have to go out here and make it look like, make almost like win people over in a sense, or just like prove to somebody I'm worth listening to or whatever. It's like, no, I don't think anybody likes that feeling, but I think definitely when it's more, you're more introverted than not, it's harder to kind of like break out of that. But I think what you were saying is just that whole giving myself the permission to, you know what I mean? And also kind of having those mind hacks where it's like on the other side of this thing, this is what I'm actually after. It's just like I have to put a carrot in front of me that's worth it to say like, you know what, I'll get out of my comfort zone for that thing. You know what I mean? Because it's rewarding. It's moving me forward in a way that I want. But I definitely know and like and empathize with that kind of mindset. Where it's just like, man, I'd rather just be at home chilling. Like I'm the type I go to the movies by myself type stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm best when I'm creating by myself,
Same.
but I also know how to like now it's just like I've gotten more comfortable with just maneuvering in different spaces and being a little bit more extroverted and it's all because it's like what's the end goal, like what am I doing, who am I serving, where am I striving and stretching towards, and like doubling down on that to say like this is worth it now. it's that repetition. It's like when you do it and just do it more consistently, it gets easier and it becomes more natural. And now it's, I still got my defaults, but it's just like I'm comfortable with both. You know what I mean?
That is so cool for you to share that because I think if anybody's ever seen you perform, maybe hearing me speak here, people have heard from Steph. I would think probably people would guess that we're all like extroverts. That being on is our
Right.
natural state, especially if they've seen you perform, because you're just all energy and you give everything to the
Yeah.
crowd. And so to hear that all of us are naturally introverts and would rather just be in the room by ourselves. And even for me, I can do conferences and I can do the social stuff, but I have learned like when I do conferences, I strategize. So take like taxi where it's like pretty much 24 hours. You're in like panels all day long and then all night to like 3 or 4 in the morning you're in the lobby socializing. I have to be very strategic about like being around people for 3 or 4 hours, dip back to the room for like an hour, and just chill by myself. And then, okay, I'm good. Let me go back
Right.
down
Right.
to the lobby, hang out for 2 or 3 hours. All right, need to pull away for a little bit. Like I have to have that getaway time, otherwise, I'm totally drained and not good for anything anymore.
Yeah, I can feel that because even like being out, these past couple of weeks that I've been, like I found myself in times where it's just like I kind of want to dip out a little early, just go catch a movie or like just go watch Netflix and finish Squid Game or something like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I just want to, withdraw and recharge. It's a big thing. It's like I think it would say it's like extroverts kind of get energy from being around people, and introverts get energy from, just being with themselves to be able to recharge. And so because I got a friend who when the pandemic hit, she was just like, oh my God, I can't stand being in here. Like I need to go be around people. And it just showed up in a way I didn't realize how much it would be for her. But for me, like the fact that they shut everything down and the streets were empty, I'm like, can this stay like this? Like this is dope. You know what I mean? Like being considerate of like what the seriousness of it was. I don't want to, make, be inconsiderate or anything, but just the fact that it was just a very isolated time, like for me, was just like a treat in a sense because it's just lower expectations. You know what I mean?
Actually, I could say something like maybe even a bit opposite. Like I feel like I'm probably the most like extroverted person, and I'm always willing to go out and like show my music and like meet people. I'm always like, yeah, I got to network, got to network. But I think during the pandemic, it really helped me like hone in and like own my craft because you know when I'm into music, I can be pretty introverted and focus on what I'm doing, and it's kind of outlet for me, especially growing up with ADHD. And I'm sure there's a lot of musicians and producers that can relate. It really helped me like focus on my craft and get better. And even now, doing as much as it's not an introverted thing, I'm always like, I've always been the person to say, "Oh no, it's good enough. Like let's push it out." Like just pushing out content and making connections. But now I'm always like, "No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough," and not in an unhealthy way, more in a way of just like pushing myself to do better. So I think that the pandemic helped me in that way to stay focused and throughout now and just doing briefs. I always just know I can be pretty hard on myself, which I think is important. I mean, you guys can disagree, but like just understanding that like you can really try to create the best thing you possibly can. And usually that's the best thing. That's my experience. Also, I got a question for mainly Eric, and it's a two-part thing. Speaking about connections and all that, I think this is the perfect question. First question is, do we have any sync conferences or production music conferences coming up in the next month? Because I couldn't find anything. And two, is going to South by worth it and for the sync world?
I have never been to South by Southwest. I've been interested in it because I'm also curious about
I've
Austin,
been.
but I've never been. And so I'm actually not sure. I don't know if anybody else in the room, if anybody's gone. I have no idea.
I've been there.
Oh, uh, you went as a performer,
Yeah,
right? As
I've
an
been.
indie artist?
Yeah, I've been there like shoot, like 4 years in a row or something like that when I was with the label because they used to do shows out there. Just to answer that question, Adam, the last year I was there, so I feel like I was I don't say late bloomer, like, but out of the years that I went to South by, it was probably the last year that I was with the label where I made the decision like, yo, I'm gonna try to figure out sync. And I started going to panels that had or were sync focused. And they had some good information. I met Morgan Rhodes out there for the first time, and she's been in control camp rooms like earlier on, and so I do think it's valuable there. It would probably be dope to go, which I kind of want to try out, like not just going for the music portion, but going like a week earlier when they do the it's kind of like a TV or a film and TV kind of vibe or whatever, and like the filmmakers and directors and stuff will be there. It's like that portion of it would probably even be more advantageous for musicians to just kind of connect with some folk to who actually need your music. You know what I mean? But also, the music end, they're hosting panels for like indie artists to understand what it takes, and you probably find some supervisors or agents, or publishers there that you can kind of network with, or just research and just let them know, follow up like, hey, I saw you at South by. I love what you said. Just pay attention and be strategic, like what Eric was saying.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, there must be a huge portion in the sync world and in the writing for ads world and the custom shop and composition. I feel like there must be like so many conferences and people there that are really good network. Again, it is very big, not like Durango and the other ones that are really tight knit and have more of a community. But I feel like there's a lot of benefit in going strictly for the conferences. I mean, of course, the music is going to be awesome to have some fun, but kind of in a strategic type way to network and go to conferences. That's all I was thinking about really, because it just seemed like I'm trying to find out. It's not too clear what conferences will be there in terms of sync, but I'm sure there is a lot of opportunities.
If you do find out, let me know because I'd be very interested in knowing who might be there, what kind of companies might be there. Even sometimes it's not always a direct thing, but just being able to get access to the technology companies and people who have to worry about things like they're launching, so they've got to worry about brands, and they might need Sonic brands, or they might be doing their own marketing materials. So sometimes just relationships like those can lead to things. On the technology side, there could be podcasters there who have never thought about, oh, how am I going to get some fresh music for my show? So there's a lot of alternative ways to, especially as an instrumental, as a composer, going to things like film festivals, just meeting up and coming producers. What do you, not that you need to travel across the country for those, but any cool ones come in your area. There's lots of cool ways because music is used in so many ways, and sometimes the people who need the music don't even know that they need it, or they don't know that that's a service that can be provided. So sometimes here we talk about more of the traditional things that where the paths have already been established, but I follow a guy on Twitter who, as far as I know, doesn't have any major placements, but he's been doing like sonic branding for like small companies, and just like, hey, or somebody has a podcast, or people who come up with a logo and is like, hey, have you ever thought of getting a little sonic brand and putting a little cool 3 or 4 notes together, and just you know part of pitching ourselves is something else I just heard on a podcast, and this applies to every business every anybody who makes any kind of product ultimately is a salesperson, and we don't like to think of ourselves as salesperson because we think of the picture as sketchy salespeople, but you can sell and not be sketchy. Like, I sell control camp, but I don't think I make anybody feel negative or grimy or slimy about, oh, here comes Eric pitching control camp again, because I do it in a way where I'm serving you, and I'm giving you something that you're interested in, that you have a need for. And so uh, if you're actually serving a community or a client or a customer, then selling is not sketchy. It's service. It just depends on how you're approaching it and what your real intention is. And sometimes part of selling someone or serving someone requires some education. This is what I heard in a podcast I was listening to today, that we sometimes have to educate the people on what our service can do for them. They may never have thought, oh, I could actually really use that. Oh, I could actually have some cool music on my podcast that kind of brands me, that stands out. Like, I've never thought about that. And so there's the traditional networking and the traditional conferences. I don't know offhand of one coming up right now. I mean, Guild of Music Service, the Guild of Music Supervisors just did, I think it's called Mondo NYC last week, where they're part of that conference. They did a whole day's worth of panels, and then right before that was the PMC, was a whole week of production music conferencing, and that was all virtual. So some really cool ones just passed. I don't know offhand what's coming up before the end of the year, but if I hear some, I'll bring it.
The taxi conference is the first week of
Oh,
November.
thank you, Kate. You're right. Yeah, Taxi is coming up. I'm not attending this year, so I forgot about it. But right, first week in November, exactly.
Oh,
It's all virtual this year, so
Yeah, they have that
no way
on
to.
taxi.com. It's free, but you have to be a paid member, or you can go as a guest of somebody who's a paid. The cool thing about Taxi is every member gets to bring one person free to that conference. So the member gets a free admission, and they get to bring. So if you know somebody who's going, see if they haven't used their free pass, um, and you can attend. The virtual sessions. Atik is on stage. Hey, what up, Atik?
Hey Eric, hey Duraj, how's it going?
Very good. Good to see you.
What up? What up? What up, man?
How are you today?
Good, just busy. Back in the office. I took a couple days and worked remotely, so now I'm back in the office. Um, yeah, just week 7 of the season now. I think it is. So just trying to grind through.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah,
always good to see you. I always appreciate that. Even though you're working, you always kind of make time to stop through. So definitely appreciate.
yeah, no, definitely try. I really enjoy this room, so um, try to pop in whenever I
I heard
can.
so many people messaged me like I got to meet Atik in Colorado. Like you would everybody said you were so open and just you know cool. And I mean that's the general response thing I've heard about all the supervisors that have been there. But because people kind of know you and they've seen you talking, like to be able to meet you in person, like a number of people messaged me that they really appreciated getting to chat with you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm humbled to hear that. So, but yeah, just try to be kind to everybody. Um, you know. So yeah, no, it was a great experience. I was really glad that I was able to go and meet a bunch of people and connect with people. I met Duraj in person, so that was awesome. Yeah, hopefully Eric. You'll be at the one in
Oh,
February.
definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely planning to go to that. I'm waiting for the emails
Yeah,
and
that
stuff
would be
to
cool.
start going out for that.
Yeah. And you guys were talking about being introverted and extroverted. I had a hard time with the pandemic because I was so used to being out and
Mm.
about and amongst people that I didn't realize how much I missed it because I could be like, oh, I could be at home and be okay, but I just miss being around people. And so now I'm like, any opportunity to go do something, I'm like, I'm going to go do it. So, but yeah, I need to be around people.
It's cool once you
Um,
identify how what your how how people energize you or take your energy, and then you know that that's what you need. Um, I actually worry. I have some really good friends who are extrovert, and even my mom's is an extrovert, and one of my closest friends is an extrovert, and I was really worried about them. Like, my mom is she just had a birthday, and I believe she just turned like 78. But prior to the pandemic, and even due to the pandemic, I mean, she's always going somewhere. She's 78, but she takes Krav Maga with a group of others, senior citizens that study it, and go, goes part of a bowling league, and um, meets friends out for dinner. And so, and then she takes care of my dad who has Alzheimer's, and so even through all that, she's been his caretaker for like over 10 years now, and
wow.
even with all that, she's like go 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 go, and so I really worried more about her during the pandemic. I mean, she's starting to go now. In New York, they're slower to open up, but she's starting to do more now with going to restaurants and meeting back with friends, and they've restarted their Krav Maga class after being like a year off, and so she's getting some sense of like community. But I was really worried about her and some of my friends who, I mean, for me, this was like not to downplay any of that, but I like the pandemic did not change my own personal energy at all. Being in the room is my natural state, and so but I was aware and could empathize with other people that I know their natural state is being out, or at least they needed that energy of being out and being around and being connected to people. So I could definitely relate with the struggle of that.
Yeah, they're finding more and more research that that people that have friends and large social circles do uh, have longer and better quality of life. So it's important to be out in the world, I guess, or have friends, at least have those connections.
Connections, yeah,
So
I do. I really believe connections. Actually, I read a really good book on depression. My oldest son struggles a lot with depression, and so and I'm a big avid book reader, so I'm always like trying to read stuff and learn. And so I read this one book. I can't think of the name of it right now, but the conclusion of this one guy who kind of did his own journey, and he went from being medicated to kind of taking himself off of medications, and came to the conclusion that if he focused his energies on establishing connections and really having deep connections, that he no longer needed, the medications. He was able to kind of take, deal with his mental health issues by connection, um, by connection. And he wasn't advocating, obviously anybody, everyone who needs medication should be on it, but he was just adding more weight to the actual power of social connections and how important it is. So
there's a great TED. Sorry, I didn't
it's
mean to
okay. Go
cut you
ahead.
off. There's a great TED talk on this actually, and they did a study, and there's a couple of instances where it was more about the social connection than anything else that helped depression. Um, yeah, everybody, they talk about medicating and stuff, but that's not necessarily what you need. What people need is human connection, right? Our innate being, right? We were hunter and gatherers and part of communities, right? Like that's how we survived for a millennia or whatever. So, and then as society developed, we sort of spread out and we don't have those same tight bonds, and so but there's a great TED talk, and there's a book on it too. I can't recall the name, but I can send it to you if you're interested. At least I can send you
Oh,
the
I would
TED
love to
talk.
see that. Yeah, I love soaking that type of info in. So appreciate that. And I totally agree.
Uh,
That's really cool. Deja, you got your mic
Hey, can
open?
I say something? Yeah, I'm sorry. Can I say something about the part where you were talking about selling yourself?
Go for it.
So I yeah, speaking of books, I can recommend two books. Some of you might have heard of the first one, which is the Jordan Belfort, The Way of the
Mm-hmm.
Wolf. Um, because I've worked in sales pretty much um, all of my adult life. I've worked at Hertz, worked at the bank. So that one's a good one. And then also there's this guy named Chris Voss um, with a book called Never Split the Difference. And this guy, he basically he was an FBI negotiator, hostage negotiator. And so he basically just boils down the communication, boils down making deals to like communication and like going like you said, building a relationship with people and seeing things from their perspective. So those are two ones that kind of helped me as far as like
Oh,
actionable. Yeah.
uh, Dadrian, the FBI guy, he was on Clubhouse in the early days. He'd have rooms.
Yeah, I got it.
The guy that wrote that book.
I love the book. I didn't read the Wolf book, the Jordan Peterson book, but I did read the Chris Voss book, and I really really liked it. Um, just the whole mindset. It's interesting. I wish I have my version highlighted, and I have to go back and kind of post some of the main things, but just the whole aspect of. We're talking about different things, but it still comes down to pitching. So if you're just coming into the room, you're like, "Hey, I thought this was a room about sync in music and TV. We're it's in the midst of all this.
Yeah, I knew it was kind of gonna be left
No, but
field, but
that's
yeah,
actually true.
sorry.
It's good because I mean, what we everything we do, pitching is important, and so that book has actually helped me because if you take something like FBI negotiation, right, the hostage negotiation, you're talking about a situation where you cannot lose. You cannot accept no for an answer. If you accept no for an answer, then somebody dies. And so when you look at the premise of that book of like, okay, how do you influence somebody? How do you sell you whether you're selling yourself or whether you're trying to talk somebody off of a ledge or whether you're trying to talk um, uh, uh, somebody into releasing a hostage, it's all selling, it's all empathy, it's all under even from Chris Voss's perspective is like what you're doing in that moment is understanding what the person with the hostage is thinking, where they are. That person ultimately wants something. If you understand what they want, you can speak to them based on their wants and needs and not what you want. You want the hostage free, but they want something too. And so just that book and his whole mindset of of how to talk to people when you can't take no for an answer also applies to how you talk to businesses when you shouldn't take no for an answer. You don't want to take no, you don't want to get the no. So taking the lessons from that of, you know, in all of our conversations, I'm pitching my music, but the person I'm pitching my music to wants something. If you don't know what that person wants, then whatever you're saying is not going to penetrate. So if I have if I you know if I have this great collection of Christmas songs that I've put together, I'm talking to a music supervisor because I know, hey, you're working on this Christmas movie for the Hallmark Channel. Are you still looking for music? If you're looking for anything that needs Christmas but it needs soulful, I can help there. So knowing what the person I'm talking to is thinking, what they need, what they want, gives me something to pitch. Um I am not just begging them to take my product. I am helping solve a problem for them. And if we don't know the problem that the person we're talking to has, then we can't serve them. We just making music and we hope we can find somebody who wants it. And so switching that around to who can I have a great skill. I can make awesome music. Who can I help with this? Who needs my help? Taking what we do in terms of service and not taking it from a position of want or saying, oh, I want this career. I want to leave my job. I want to do this full time. I want, like, switching that to who can I help, I think changes a lot. And it helps us get into the position of pitching and serving and being a servant and not being needy, because nobody wants to help somebody who's needy. That goes for that goes the dating world, the business world, the relationship world. Nobody wants to help someone who is needy. People want to be around people who can help them. That's just human nature. Yeah.
I love that, man. That's so strong, and just the idea of providing value to others, and especially as a creator, just thinking in terms of, what are you looking for? How might I be able to plug into that and give you what you need? I just love that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm like I would think that resonates also since you're on the marketing side, even though you said it's data, but I would think that some of that is parallel.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it all comes back to, finding the fit, right? Finding the right thing that from a marketing perspective that we're looking for. Um, I think it applies, the same way. Just trying to provide value from our perspective would be to the customer, and from the music perspective, the customer is the supervisor or the show that we're trying to get pitched on.
Love it, love it. Kate is on stage. You said something, but I don't know if you had another comment or question to that. I don't want to overlook that.
No, I didn't have anything in particular. I guess I was jumping up when you were talking about being introverted because I'm also very much an introvert, and it's almost dangerous to put an introvert on lockdown because we're so happy to just be in our own little world and have permission
Right.
to not go anywhere and not see anyone.
And not be
So
made to
it's
feel
like,
weird like, oh, you're not going out, there's nowhere to go. So nobody's going to ask me, like, why aren't
right,
you going out?
exactly. And nobody's putting pressure on, oh, you got to come out on the weekend. It's like, no, I don't want to go out. I'm working on my project.
I so relate
So
100%.
that was very, very much in that space of enjoying permission to stay isolated,
Yep.
which I can be social and I do enjoy those connections, but I'm not, I don't want to go into a big party room. I'm not comfortable there. I like I like the after party where it's just, hanging out with friends.
Even rooms like this where it's like a few people on stage and a good amount of people in the audience, but it's not like thousands of people in the audience and like 1,000 people on stage interrupting each other. It's just a more controlled environment, like that type of thing. Even that goes into it.
Yeah, and you feel like you can actually say something and be heard instead of trying to shout over people in a crowd.
Totally true. Totally true. All right, let me do a quick reset. Just for anybody who's coming to the room, and we're talking about all this. We're talking about introversion and social awkwardness and pitching. And this is still a music room. This is a Control Camp. We are a community that discusses sync licensing. Um, we're all interested, learning, sharing information around writing music for TV, film, advertisements. I'm Eric Campbell. I'm the host of the camp, and we come here every Wednesday just to kind of share information. I've been a songwriter, producer, working on shows for the last 10 years. And in this space, we just try to have people at all levels share information. We all believe that sync is a journey. There's not really one set path to getting music on TV. I get a lot of people ask me, hey, how do I get my music on TV? And it would be insincere for me to say, "Oh, just do exactly what I did, and you'll get exactly what I got." Because um, every time we've hosted a room here with people who've had placements or who worked full time in sync, I've yet to hear two people who've got where they are doing the exact same thing as somebody else. This is unlike other careers that are where the path is more laid out. Sync is kind of a wide open, a little bit of a wild west, and so I think it serves our community better to pull different voices together and kind of share information as to how we got where we are, and the more that we're open sharing our individual journeys, the better information you can have to kind of decide how to direct your journey. What I did not have when I started was a variety of voices. I kind of, I only, when I started through Taxi. I've shared this a lot. And I was grateful for the organization, but even with that, it only kind of showed me one path, which is writing music for libraries. And those libraries got me lots of placements, but then later I kind of found out about, oh, pitching to music supervisors directly, or oh, doing custom work for production companies, or oh, you can work on set and just work directly on the TV show, and oh, you can have relationships with ad agencies, and oh, there's micro syncs, and there's all these lanes, and so the more voices you can hear, the more lanes you can get exposed to, and you can kind of try them all out, try a little here, try a little there, and see what feels best for you. So we are here every Wednesday from 8 till about 10 o'clock. We'll go to 10 p.m. And then we will transition into our after party, even though this kind of feels like an after party vibe. It's a little casual today, which I'm really glad about. But the actual after party, we don't discuss music in there. We kind of just get to know one another. We really tighten our social bonds. That room will only show up in your hallway if you're following Control Camp. So click on that icon above my picture that looks like a house and hit follow. And then when we end, the room will show up in your hallway. Again, we don't talk about music in there, but we make really, our relationships are strong, and we've actually have done business out of that room because of the relationships that were formed in the room. So I encourage you to kind of step in there and say hello and let people get a chance to know you, and you get to know some other people. All right, got somebody new.
So
Oh,
Eric,
who's Kate? Hey, Kate.
quick question. Question for the extroverts in the room. Is it any easier pitching as an extrovert? I know as an introvert, it's like this big hurdle to get over just to, use your voice and promote your music. And I wondered if you're an extrovert to start with, whether that makes getting that pitch out there any
That's a
easier.
great question, Kate. Anybody on stage uh, want to take that? Al, you got your mic open?
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that. So I've been in sales most of my professional life, and everything from retail to selling advertising for mix and guitar player and in the industry. And there was a time when I first started in retail where I was an introvert, absolutely afraid of my own shadow, and it sort of put me. I had to deal with people every day. I was working the counter. So eventually you build up confidence, and it's like anything else that you practice, the first couple of times you kind of suck at it. And after a while you start to build up, I would say maybe it's a bag of tricks, certain conversation starters, certain things that you can use to talk to people. And then what you begin, eventually you realize, and some of this was touched upon earlier, is that sync is very much like a marketplace. You've got people, you've got buyers that are out there. Imagine a bazaar, and there are people walking around. You got some people that are buying and they want blue shorts, and you got other people that are buying and they want red tops. Well, it's your job as a seller to find out that they're looking for red tops, and if you've got that, you're just providing value. You're saying, hey, I got red tops over here. It's not like the demerit of going out there and trying to sell something like a timeshare or a used car or something that somebody really may not want, and they're getting it shoved down their throat. That's really where the slimy sales guy mentality is when it's a different mindset. As a professional salesperson, you're out there selling what people want, and you're making them happy, and you're making their job easier by providing that value. And I think if you have that as a mindset, that it becomes easier. And the more you do it, and the more you practice it, and the more that you get out there and put yourself out there under the right circumstances and have these little wins, it begins to feed upon itself, and you get better and better and more confident.
I love that. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Andrew.
I think there's something to that. The It's not necessarily an extroverted trait. It's a confidence trait. But even beyond a confidence trait, it's a calmness trait. When you are confident in what you bring to a film or what you can bring to a show or your value, you've done this a lot. You're confident in yourself. There's a calmness in your voice that people respond to, and I don't think that's necessarily an extrovert or introvert trait. I think I'm more of a social introvert in that I do really well in social settings, but I still need to come home and charge alone. I think the basic difference between an extrovert and an introvert is somebody who gets energy from others and somebody who gets energy from being alone, right? But I don't think being an introvert is inherently bad for pitching at all. I know tons of composers who are introverts and they do great at pitching because they can speak to the emotion that they want to bring for the music, for the film, or the show. They can engage people one-on-one. They can speak to, what their music will bring. And yeah, I don't think that trait is either extrovert or introvert.
And ultimately it's genuine, and that's really what I think that the buyers pick up on, or that somebody that you're having a commerce conversation about will understand immediately that you're being genuine.
I love
Right,
that.
exactly. Right, exactly.
While you're talking, Andrew, I think this is your first time on the stage. Welcome, and let's give an introduction. I see you got some really cool credits, so I want to take a minute to you share who you are and kind of what you've done in sync.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me and inviting me up to speak. I have to be honest that I'm a composer
who has very little to no experience in sync licensing, writing for libraries and getting music placed in shows. That's not where my career is taking me. My career is more in writing original music for stuff, and it's not necessarily by choice. It's just that those are just two very different paths that require almost your full energy. Like I know people who write music for libraries and they get up and they do like 4 tracks a week because it's a numbers game and they just want to get as many tracks out there because that increases their chances of getting a placement on like a major primetime reality show or something. And I've just never put energy into that. Not necessarily that it's bad or anything. It's just that my energy is put more into trying to find work to write original music for productions, like specifically get hired as a composer. And it's through that and in that realm that I'm working with right now Ava DuVernay on her new primetime NBC show Home Sweet Home. She found me on Clubhouse, actually, and hired me less than a week later.
That is, you have to tell that story.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well, the story is a little bit long, so uh, do you want me to tell it?
I definitely do.
So it was well, thank you. It's a fun, I love telling the story. It was late July, and I was working on, can't even remember what I was working on. I think it was the queer horror doc that I was working on for Shudder at the time. So I was like not really using Clubhouse very much. I was just kind of putting my head down, trying to get as much work done as possible. And I get an alert on my phone and then a ping into a room. And I look at the room and the room says, I might hire a composer on Clubhouse tonight. We'll see. And what is this? Like, an independent horror short? Like who's hiring composers on Clubhouse? Like, I wasn't expecting much. But I personally never leave a door unknocked. I always try to at least knock on the doors and see if they open and see what's behind them. So I was like, all right, well, I probably need a break anyway. So I took a break and I clicked the link and it brought me into this room that was Ava DuVernay and a couple of other people, like one of which I think was her personal assistant, taking notes about who she was speaking to, and like almost 1,000 people listening, and a couple dozen composers on stage, and she was just going through each composer, just doing like a 1 to 2 minute quick tell me about yourself interview. Um, and so I was like, holy shit, it's Ava DuVernay. I love her work. 13th made me cry. When They See Us made me cry. Like she's an incredible bomb of empathy. Everything she works on is so emotionally impactful and powerful and meaningful and necessary. So I was like, God, I've got to take the shot. So I raised my hand and came up on stage, and she's basically, the format was just a couple of like, tell me about yourself, and then thank you, send me a link in the back channel and the messages, because at this point in late July, the back channel messages had just arrived on Clubhouse. So when it was my turn, I just kind of told her about myself and that I'm a composer that works a lot in horror movies, but I want to try to branch away from horror, not because I don't love it, but just because I don't want it to be the only thing I ever work on. I want it to be the occasional joy that I get to work on a horror movie. And so the interview seemed to go well. I mean, it was nice and quick. And I immediately, after my interview was finished, went to the back channel and sent Ava my website and a link to like another track that I had just finished for a Christmas movie. And I just sat and listened to all these other wonderful, talented composers do their interview. And I was like, man, well, we'll see what happens. You never know. Nothing will probably come of this. And a little while later, maybe like 6 or 7 people later, uh, Ava pops in after someone does their interview and says, "Just so you all know, like I don't know why, but Andrew is the only person that has sent me links so far," which blew my mind. I mean, there were like 2 dozen, 3 dozen people on stage, and I can't.
Oh my
Of all
God.
the people that had interviewed, nobody followed up with a link immediately afterwards. So I'm certain everybody then sent their links like immediately. I don't know what they if they were waiting for the room to end or something. Um, but that blew my mind. Um, and then a little bit later in the room, a music supervisor came up on stage and was like, "I'm a music supervisor. I'm not a composer, but maybe you need a music supervisor." And Ava was like, "I don't. I'm not. I'm look tonight. I'm hiring a composer." Um, and then at that point, I think there were like 900 something people listening, and most of which I think were not film industry people. They were just listening because of who Ava is, and she just draws a crowd. So she went into a little conversation, a little explanation about the differences between a music supervisor and a composer for all those non-film people in the room. She was saying like a music supervisor will find tracks and sync them and get the licensing, and like she used the example of like maybe like a Beyonce song for Queen Sugar or something like that. But a composer will write and craft original music like specifically for the picture and for the scene, not beforehand just to sync up. And in describing that process, she started to describe like a scene. So she was like, let's say that there's a mother who's like looking out her kitchen window into the backyard and watching her child play, and she just got a recent diagnosis, and she doesn't know how to share that news with her daughter because but so right now she's just sitting out the window watching her daughter in her last moment of innocence, because as soon as she tells her the news of the cancer diagnosis, her that innocence will be ripped away. And it was just such a moving, she was just off the cuff like describing the scene, and I was just so moved by it. I could see it by the way she was describing. I could see the scene. I could feel the music that I would maybe write for that scene. So I just quickly like unmuted my mic and I started to play the piano and I started to score her description of that scene.
Wow.
And she loved it. She just loved it. She was like blown away. She was like, "Okay, Andrew. Okay, noted. I'm gonna note that." And she did. And that was a Friday night. And by Wednesday, I had a phone call with some of the producers on the show, and I was hired the following day on a
Wow.
Thursday.
Andrew, that is the most, yeah,
That's so awesome.
that is the
That's
most
amazing.
amazing story I've heard. And I'm glad you told it. Not long at all. I was like, I'm so glad you told it. So many awesome things that you just, I mean, I'm sure the room was taking notes, but the two things that you said that stuck out to me, one, like just, we were just talking about pitching earlier and how, everything we do, no matter what product you make, you have to pitch. And pitching is, I've learned, like I said, sometimes I feel like I learned too late, but pitching is just a mindset, this willingness to put yourself out there. And I thought that um, you back channeling her was an act of courage and confidence, that calm confidence. But I probably would have done that. I probably would have, soon as I got off the call with her, as soon as I got off the interview, I probably would have sent my links to the back channel. I know I can be that bold, and I've been that bold. I do not know that I have the courage to
Yeah,
unmute.
it's just
Yeah,
about
but I don't
following
know
up.
that I have the courage to unmute and put myself out there on the spot by scoring for Ava DuVernay in a room of 1,000 people on the spot. The level that is, oh my god, that that's wow. You deserve everything you got, bro. You deserve the
Crazy.
whole thing. That's just amazing.
The other thing that I take away. The other thing that I take away from Andrew's story is that he took initiative, right? Like it's so funny when people like say, "Hey, reach out." There's a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4 Hour Work Week, and it's basically the same premise that like you can reach out to anybody like there was a professor that gave an assignment of like, hey, reach out to a person of note or in your industry you want to work in and email them, and no one in the class did that assignment because everybody thought that the other person wouldn't respond. But generally, more often than not, people will respond to your email. And the thing is, for me, that Andrew took the initiative. That's the thing that sticks out. Like he took the initiative to send this stuff, but then also took the opportunity when presented, like, oh, let me do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely could have backfired, right? Like she could have been like, "Who's playing? Excuse me. You had your chance to,
Right.
it could have definitely backfired." But I wasn't really thinking. I didn't think about it. I didn't double think it. I felt it, and I just did it. She has told me since that it definitely helped me stand out. But that you know that the music that I sent her and um, that was part of what moved her. And so I think it's a combination of all these things, right? It wasn't like I got hired just because I played piano in a clubhouse room, but it definitely was a part of, like, you know helping me stand out in that moment. And there were hundreds of, I heard from the producer in my interview that there were hundreds of composers who sent their stuff, and
That is
that blew me
great.
away.
I really love that. I
So
appreciate you sharing that. I One thing I will say that when you started, well, we've had a number of film composers in here. I do consider film score part of sync just because you are still syncing the music to picture. So I think there's lots of paths in sync, and that is one of them. I don't know if you're free on Sundays, but I don't know if you know Matt Head. He's been in this room a lot, and we've started doing a room on Sundays. It's called Film Score Convos, and we do it. We're trying to do it every Sunday. We started it 2 weeks ago, but Matt is actually he is the one part of the music team for the new show on ABC Queens that stars Brandy and Eve, Natari Naughton, and they just had the first episode out yesterday. It's a really cool show. He's also the producer for P Valley. He's a composer for Mahalia, for the PBS documentary, The Black Church. And he and I work together on Greenleaf. And so on Sundays, we do a just convo, kind of talking through his filmography. Andrew, I feel like you and he would get along well. He is someone who has taken a lot of shots, taken a lot of risks, and kind of started his career really responding to Twitter messages. Any composer that was looking, any filmmaker that was looking for, a composer to do his short, Matt would raise his hand and say, "Hey, I got you. We're not talking about money. We're not talking about whatever. I'm trying to get my IMDb credits up." And he literally just hustled and hustled his way, and now he has, like, Emmys and other awards and is working on really really big projects. But on Sundays we talk about that, and so if you're ever free Sunday around 1 o'clock Eastern, I'd love for you to jump in on that convo, Andrew, because I feel like you two would get along really well.
yeah, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to meet him and join that
Very, very. This is
conversation.
just awesome. What I love about Campfire Convos is you never know what's going to happen, and I kind of designed it that way, like by not having like specific guest speakers. I mean, I still may do that. You never know, like might have something scheduled, but I love the randomness of you never not knowing who's coming into the room, and being able to just kind of respond and go wherever the conversation goes. I see Steve Keller in here. I don't think he's able to come on stage now, but he came into the room randomly a couple of weeks back and started talking about sonic branding, and we had a real cool convo. I think we're going to try and do more of that with him and Mike Boris. And then last week or the week before, we had um, a gentleman from an agency in LA come on stage. Also seemed to be random, just kind of walked into the room and said that he needed epic cinematic hip hop. And we volunteered to host the listening room for that. So if you're on our mailing list, you got that email this week. where you can submit cinematic hip hop. In the email, there's actually a reference playlist, a Spotify playlist of music. We're talking kind of energetic hip hop with real bombastic, kind of sounds like movie trailer music. So you've got the big whoms and the synthesizers and the big subs and heavy brass and orchestral elements and all these things that work really well. But now with that that works with merge with kind of hip hop lyrics and vocals, and so we have been collecting those submissions. It looks like there's about 24 submissions I've gotten so far. So if you did not get that email and you're interested, you can DM me. Go to controlcamp.com and make sure you sign up on our mailing list. That's how you will get those. Eventually, this will not be all email. Eventually, as I said in the beginning, we are going to have a home for the community on the web. Controlcamp.com will be the home. You can all have your own profiles there. We will still be on Control Camp, but we can host rooms there. We can have our Zoom sessions there. We can post briefs there. We can do one-on-ones with composers and spotlights with music supervisors. So the community itself, and it doesn't matter whether you found us here on Clubhouse or you found me on TikTok or found us on Instagram. Everybody will be meeting and coordinating and living on controlcamp.com. And eventually we'll also be doing in-person events, different places around the country. I think that's, we're looking to start that in 2022. So I've got a pretty big vision for where we're going to go. I'm very intent on, uh, you know, I think the pandemic gave us this opportunity to make a real organic community, and I want to build it and grow it and really make a place where we can come together and learn free of charge, learn about this craft, find opportunities in this craft, if we have, uh, find opportunities to pitch, contribute music, or just learn from other people who are doing it. It's a vision of mine that we can make make a community of friends that all happen to be working in the industries we want to work in. And so that's what I want. And so I believe you're here because you also um, are looking for that. So it is 9:30. If you've walked in, this is Control Camp. We're a community focused on music for TV. We've been having an awesome discussion, and technically we're going to go for 30 more minutes, and then we will shift into our after party. In the after party, this is a more social event. We just get to kind of know one another. We're kind of doing that now, but in that context, we don't talk about music. We just get to be more social. I found that if you take care of the social relationships, you get to know people organically. Then the business comes, and that has happened. We've actually done deals outside of the after party, based on relationships that were established in there. So you can only get access to the after party if you are following Control Camp. So click on the little green house that's above me, above my picture on your phone, and make sure you hit follow, and then it will show up in your hallway. Yeah. So the floor is open. The mic is open if you want to come on stage. I mean, just the last 30 minutes, we keep things casual. It's kind of been casual, but we've been having some great discussion. But if anyone wants to come up, you don't have to have a particular question. Just want to say hello. Feel free to raise your hand, and I will pull you up. We can kind of do that. Kind of have chill open mic convo for the last 30. Um, Also, Q, are you still on stage? Are you still? I know you were running around, so you may not be able to talk. Are you in a place you can talk? Oh,
Yeah,
cool. I
yeah, I
wanted to
just got home,
congratulate Q.
so
Actually,
I'm gonna.
so some of in addition to making music, and we talked about this in the beginning, but for those who weren't here, in addition to making music myself for Sync for the last 10 years, I just completed my first music supervisor gig. And so I was a music supervisor for season 3 of a show called The Family Business, which just aired on B is airing on BET Plus. It's one of those shows where the entire season, I believe, is out there at one shot. And so it's just airing now. Actually, this goes back to relationships because my relationship with Matt Head. Matt Head is the uh, composer for the show, but the show didn't have a music supervisor, so I was able to help in that. And it was more. We didn't license any commercial music. It was all placing independent music on different scenes, and so we placed about 11 songs throughout the season. And Q, who was on stage as Monsieur Swank, is his handle here, but he has won his very first placement was on the show, and we got his song in two different episodes. Him and his collaborator, the name of the group is Tape Pop, and we placed it was pretty much all hip hop. It's an urban drama, so it was all hip hop music. A couple of R&B pieces we also placed, but mostly hip hop because there's a lot of club scenes. There's a lot of scenes in either nightclubs or strip clubs or different types of evening venues. And so, congrats, Q, on having your first placement in there. You actually have watched it already. I haven't even been able to see it yet, but you've checked out. Did you get to record it?
I did. Chris, who's my collaborator, the other half of Tape Pop, he actually I think he did a screenshot. He made it look real professional for us, the scene, because they had a really good scene where the music was it was in a transition, one of the transitions to a new scene. So the music kind of stood out at the beginning of the scene, and then of course, it went under some dialogue later on in the scene. But yeah, it played out for about a minute. But he got a really good. Of course, I did it the I guess the I don't know how you say it, the uh, just the hood way of just recording it on my phone, but he was able to get it on his computer and get a really good professional looking shot, look like something that they would have done in the studio as far as putting our names at the bottom of the scene and everything. So it was real cool. And I want to say this again, as I mentioned earlier in the room. I greatly appreciate Eric and Control Count, the community that you all have built here, because this is just an example of like what y'all were talking about earlier about being present and putting yourself in the communities and building relationships. And I haven't known Eric long, but just being around and seeing what he and Daraj and Steph have been doing here and being a part of it has just been, I think, a great asset to me as far as learning and, like you said, opportunity. So grateful to you all in Control Camp. Grateful to you in Control Camp for it.
Our pleasure, man. I'm just proud of you submitting and putting yourself out there. And you've not just that. I mean, you submitted to that opportunity, but then you also have been pitching yourself. You've been at you know Durango and just putting yourself out there as a group and looking at sync agency opportunities, just looking at ways to kind of build relationships. So kudos to you for stepping into all that.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Eric and Q, you said that it's in two episodes. Is that the same
Same
song or is
song.
it two different
Yeah,
songs?
same song was used in two different episodes.
Same 2 episodes. Yeah,
That's awesome. Congrats, man.
appreciate it.
So very very cool. Somebody just came on stage. Who was it? Dana? Hey Dana. Oh, Dana, you there? You muted.
I am here. I still can't get the hang of this mic thing. No, thank you for pulling me up. I just, I'm with the guy who was just talking. Congrats to everyone, and I just thank you for this room because it's very informative and like you guys are really giving with information and I enjoy it. So I look forward to getting on. I was late today, but I had some stuff going on. So,
No worries,
but
our
yeah,
pleasure. I'm
so.
actually waiting. I mean, we do the recording of the room and we make them available on our Patreon, but I'm actually waiting for I'm waiting for Clubhouse to announce that they're doing regular replays and they're making replays available. At that point, I think we might transition away or either change the Patreon because we won't need to do replays if they're doing replays, but it'll be so much easier because then I can also do the show from my phone and not have to be locked into my studio set up so that we can, so that we can record. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be able to even host the room and just have this conversation, and grateful that every conversation is interesting and other people come. I don't think it'd be interesting if it was just. I don't think it would be as interesting if it was just me talking all the time. I think what helps is, you know, um, hearing from Tim, and hearing Q's story, and then hear someone like Andrew walks in the room and kind of shares, and then other people kind of just share on their journey, and also just ask their questions. It's the dialogue, and so I'm thankful to be able to just kind of host the dialogue and kind of feed off of that, and add clarity where I can. And so that's kind of why community is so important to me, because many of us, be interested, Andrew, see if you agree with this, not if this is your story, but many of us kind of had to figure out on our own and didn't necessarily have um, community to give information. I had some community. I was very active in taxi, and that is a good community. They share a lot of information, and the only drawback is that that information is only about one lane. It's about music, through libraries. Andrew talked about people, and I know people who do writing for libraries full time, and they make a good career doing it, and they do. In a week, they'll sit and they'll do 10 to 20 cues every single week, and they do it for years. And after doing it for a few years, their royalties, approach six figures. It's a very valid career path. Um, but it's one where you just have to kind of put your head down and just grind, 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 grind. But it does pay off. But that's the only path that I saw and knew about. And so having this kind of conversation where you can hear, oh, somebody's scoring movies, or someone else is doing sonic branding, or all these other lanes that are out here. To me, it's worth it. Just I learn, as we talk, I learn more and more. So I'm always excited to host and listen and participate. Who did I miss? Some any other thoughts from anyone on stage, or any questions from anyone in the audience who wants to come up or say anything? Adam, I saw you flash.
Oh,
You know,
Eric,
We'll get to Adam first.
not Eric Campbell. Eric Ziegler. I sent you
Hi.
a message on Instagram. I didn't get a reply. I'm just wondering, do you take like unsolicited submissions, or can I send you a playlist?
Yeah, let me check my Instagram messages. Sorry about that.
No
Yeah,
Go ahead and
worries.
it's yeah.
blast him out and
Oh,
Not,
on the stage, Adam. You could say, hey, you could message in the back room and say, hey, just checking to see that you got my message. But people get. I get so many. I'm sure people have DM me. I get so many messages, especially now hosting the room. It's if I don't respond to you, I'm not being a jerk. I like if I get a DM, first of all, Instagram, if I'm not following you back, Instagram will put the message in the message request section, so it doesn't even show up when I first click on messages. I have to go to the second section to even see message requests. But even in my regular DMs, if I am like working or just happen to check my inbox and saw that there was a message, I could come back a few hours later and your message has been buried by 10 other messages. And so if somebody's not getting back to you, it's not that that's that they necessarily didn't see it, or that they're being a jerk about it. They literally can just be inundated, and they probably already feel bad because they want to get to all the messages, and most people want to be responsive. So just be kind to people, when
yeah,
they're not responding.
it wasn't.
oh
It
yeah, no,
wasn't. It
like
wasn't about that, and I didn't mean to like blast anyone out. That wasn't. Sorry, that wasn't my intention. Both. It was more just like, hey, like some music supervisors don't like to get, don't want people to send the music. Some do. It was more just about that. I didn't mean to like. That wasn't really my intention. Sorry, it came
no
out that way.
worries, no worries. No, I do. I just sometimes I do get so swamped with messages on Instagram and then emails and back channels, so it's almost impossible. to keep up with everybody. But I do the best I can. I'll message you back on Instagram.
Sounds good. We could figure that out. Thank you,
Yeah, yeah.
guys.
Cool,
Yep.
cool. Yeah, Eric, I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to overlook you. You did come up on stage, but do you had a comment or a question? Good to see you.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's good to see you too. No, I was just coming up here to say hi, and I was in the audience for a while listening because I'm actually getting something prepared for your epic hip
Oh,
hop.
cool.
I'm gonna be submitting something for that. So I was kind of listening and getting that stuff together, but I just kind of popped on here to say hi, and so much knowledge and information being dropped tonight. So many amazing stories. I'm loving this.
Thank you,
I'm loving
thank
this
you.
session.
Yeah. Oh, good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Um, Andrew, speaking of community, let me ask you: did you start on your own individually, or were you part of a group or something? How did you learn what you've learned?
Yeah, that's a great question. I went to I went to undergrad for just music composition. I chose the school that I went to on the East Coast for because they were accredited music by the music school board of whatever something blah blah blah. But it basically meant that I could get a bachelor's in music instead of a bachelor's of arts in music. I don't think it ultimately mattered, but that my high school self chose the school for that reason. So I got my bachelor's in music composition and theory with uh, um, a minor in film studies. Didn't There weren't too many. I think at that point, and when I graduated high school in 2005, there weren't that many colleges. Now I think there are so many more that are offering film scoring degrees specifically. Um, but I was also trying to keep in state and keep that tuition down for myself and everything. So I kind of didn't really learn much about film scoring at school, and I graduated. Um, I took a bunch of years off from school to be in some rock bands and stuff. I learned a lot about marketing and selling yourself and catering your music for the audience that you're targeting, that kind of stuff in the rock bands. And the label that we signed with, Pacific Records, was really big on that. But I eventually went back to school after none of the bands that I was trying worked out, and I graduated in 2012. And I found some of my first film gigs while I was in school. That last year, uh, through Craigslist. Oddly enough, I was going on um, to Craigslist and searching casting calls and just avoiding the sketchy ones because there were a lot of ones that were obviously for like pornography and stuff. But I would find like, looking for a lead actor for a short film or something like that. And I would just email, um, I'm not an actor. I know you're not, that this isn't for a composer, but if you are looking for a composer, I would love to work with you, stuff like that. It was a huge numbers game. It was like, I was sending out like dozens and dozens of emails to get like one response, two responses. One of them is a no, one of them is a yes, but we don't have any
Okay, hold
money
on. Let
type
me
of
stop.
thing.
Let me interject real quick,
So
Andrew,
that
because you so much insight when you talk. Where did that come from? Because I mean, this is out of college. Where did that mindset of pitching yourself and pitching yourself to people who aren't necessarily asking for you? So taking I mean, that whole initiative that was something in you even before you got to the Ava DuVernay opportunity. Where did that pitching mindset come from?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know where it came from, but I know that I just didn't know I didn't know where to find film work. And at that point I was living in Virginia and I just didn't know where to find film work, but I knew there wasn't like there was Facebook at that time, and this is like 2010, 2011 even. There was Facebook, but it wasn't like it is now. It was at that point like very localized to even just like college students and college friends that I had. So it wasn't like it is now where you could very easily build a network of people around the world. Um, I just knew that I wanted to find work and I wanted to practice, and I knew I wasn't going to be making a full career on film scoring yet because I was just getting started. I don't know. It was kind of I guess out of desperation. I just knew that there was casting calls on Craigslist, and that's where I went, to try it, and I did. I found a couple of my first goes uh, that I'm glad aren't public anymore, but that's where I started. Um, and then I think as the next decade followed, the 2010 to now, social media has progressed so much, and I kind of followed that wave. So when Craigslist started to not, it was just so much more work to send out the stuff to Craigslist. It's not the it's not the best place to find films, right? And a lot of them didn't really have a budget for music, so I knew I needed to go somewhere else. So at that point, I think like 2012 ish, maybe 2013, I started to was right around the time that crowdfunding sites were coming out and really booming. Like Kickstarter and Indiegogo were the two big ones. So I would search those for films because at that point I knew I was teaching piano lessons to make money um, in DC, in the DC area. I moved up to DC because there's a ton of wealthy people who will pay a lot of money for someone to come to their
That
home and
that's
teach their
funny.
kid piano lessons
I
on the
taught
grand
intro
piano that
lessons
they
in the
spent
DC
money on.
area, so I co-sign that. Definitely some really good. You can make good money there because there's a lot of wealthy people who need private lessons.
And what was great about it is I was teaching private lessons, couple hours each day. Some of the time my schedule would be like, okay, I have all my lessons on Thursdays and Fridays so that I can write music the rest of the week. It was great, but I was using crowdfunding sites because I knew that they list their budget as part of the pitch for crowdfunding for films to get crowdfunding. Is they say, we want your money, please give us your money, but here's the breakdown of what we're going to spend that money on. And it would oftentimes say like 3% for a music composer or something. You could see that they were budgeting for a composer. And that's how I got some of my first paying gigs. And then I guess around that time, uh, like social media was really starting to boom up a little bit, and Instagram was really starting to come to the forefront of what I was trying and how I was finding gigs. I was using, I think a lot of people, we call it social media now because there's an aspect of each of us putting out content for others to consume, like we're our own source of media. But I think it's more valuable to look at it the way that it was originally marketed. All of these sites were originally marketed as social networking. Even the name of the movie about Facebook is the social network. And I've just kept that mindset and tried not to think of my Instagram as like posting content, but as a tool for me to meet and connect with other people, to network with other people via the internet. And in that way, I used Instagram. I think now you can follow hashtags, but back then you had to search them and type them directly or click them. And I would just search hashtags about filmmaking. Like I would do like hashtag set life, because if there's one thing actors love to do, it's that they love to post that they're on set. And then you have all these pictures from that actor, and you can look up like the name of the movie that they're on, like hashtag set life, a beautiful life, coming to blah blah blah, coming to this film festival or something. You can find the director of that movie. You can kind of search around. If I needed a gig, if I knew I needed it, I had an empty month coming up, like it was January and I knew that February and early March was really dry, I would just go on Instagram and search hashtag picture lock, because there's one thing editors and directors love to do on Instagram. It's post a picture of the timeline when they picture lock their film. And that's a great time for a composer to come on board and say, "Hey, congrats on picture lock. Like, it looks like a wonderful film. If you don't have a composer yet, I'd love to talk to you about scoring it." And that was really helpful. So yeah, I feel like my and then now with Clubhouse, getting this job on Clubhouse, I feel like my career has kind of ridden has rode anyways has been on the wave of social media, and whatever new social media is coming up, I've fortunately been able to use that tool to meet and network and find work through, if that makes sense. In addition to like going to film festivals and meeting directors there, and forging bonds and becoming friends with these people. People want to work with people that they like working with. So when you be, like you said, this room, the after party room, is all about just hanging out. I think that's so important. It's so important to forge a connection with somebody that's not about, "Hey, can you hire me? Hey, can you sync me? Can you put my music in a show?" It's, "Hey, tell me about yourself." You know.
No,
I think at
I'm
this point I'm
actually,
just blabbing, so I will
I
mute my mic.
literally could just have you talk for like an hour because you just like every other word is like wisdom and insight. So I'm really glad you came in here, Andrew. It was really, 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 really cool sharing. Like I think you talk about networking. You talk about networking, research, um, utilizing social media. You talk about it so effortlessly, but your thoughts, like, um, I mean, things that, you know, even to understand the film world enough to know, like, I know about on set, I didn't know the time score thing that editors use. So even just understanding that world enough to know how to utilize the tools for yourself to even find those is just some great insight. And I know the room appreciates you hearing that. So don't ever feel like you're going on. Like you actually have a lot to offer. So I'm really thankful that you're sharing.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad that
All
it's
right,
helpful.
we are last 5 minutes. I mean, we could end early and end over there. I just want to give everybody a chance to um, talk who wants to talk or share. Um, Anybody that I have not opened the mic to. Anybody on stage who didn't not not get to speak. Oh, somebody does have their hand up. Sorry, Jared. Hey, Jared, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh,
It's going well outside watering the grass.
uh,
Um,
I thought you were cooking bacon.
I
I was like,
appreciate
I
the
thought
he's
that
context.
too.
cooking hamburgers or something.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, I really did enjoy everybody speaking. Andrew, for sure, for sure. I got
Oh, did we lose you, Jared? Did anybody else hear Jared? Did he go away? Jared, we
No,
lost you.
no, he went
If
away.
you can't hear us, sometimes it might be that thing where you have to leave the room and come back. Clubhouse might still be doing that thing. Uh, Jared, can you hear us? You can unmute if you can hear us. We had like four people that this happened to last week. And once they came on stage, well, only one time where actually somebody started talking and then went mute. But it was something going on where people came on stage and then couldn't hear anything and they had to leave the room and come back in. But if Jared, some of them couldn't hear us once they went mute, so they couldn't hear us tell them to leave the room and then come back in. Jared, can you hear anything? No, that's unfortunate. All right, well, let's do this. It's a couple minutes early, but let's transition. Whoever wants to hang out, let's transition to the after party. I appreciate you all hanging in, and this conversation has just been really, really cool. We've covered a lot of different topics today, so I appreciate all of you for just kind of showing up and sharing. We are going to transition to the after party. Again, in that room, we do not talk about music. Anybody can come on stage. If as soon as you come in, if you want to come on stage, just raise your hand, and any hand that's raised gets pulled up to the stage. No music conversations, but we just chat about um, kind of life in general. And yeah, to get into there, you have to be a member of Control Camp. So click on the Control Camp um, icon. It looks like a greenhouse, and just hit follow, and it'll show up. So let me just say thank you to all those. Last chance, Jared, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I have
Did
no
you leave
idea
and come
what
back in?
happened. Um,
Okay, yeah, I was about to say that's the only way.
yeah, I did.
Sometimes it's a clubhouse bug. So let me give you a chance to before we
Yeah, so I
close.
don't know. Okay. Yeah, so I was just asking, has anybody ever wondered or tried to sort out how to get your music on like the hold music? So like when you're on hold and that music
That's
that
a
comes
good
on.
question. That is not something I know anything about. Anybody? I'm on stage. Ever heard anything about that?
The only time, the only time something like that has happened for me was a company. It was the company owned by the father of a director that I had worked with, and he was the dad was fed up with the whole like paying all this money for whatever company was doing the hold music, and she reached out to me and asked if I would write something, and I wrote something. I have no idea how they set it up. You know, the I honestly was like, yeah, I will write music, but I have no idea how to like get it in your system or whatever. They had somebody figure it out, I'm sure, but that's the only time was so that's not very helpful because it's not like a company that you can submit to or whatever. But I'm sure that there are. But the only experience I have is directly doing that for a company here in Los Angeles. But that was just as a
That's
favor
very
for the
cool.
director that
I
I'd worked with.
suspect that there's probably essential, or maybe one company that's doing that's servicing most of the large corporations with the hold music. Maybe there might be a few different competitors, but it's probably like one or a handful of companies that's servicing everybody. But I don't know what that company is. That'd be a good project to research.
I would guess that whatever companies are servicing for hold music license tracks from libraries. But you know,
That
that's
would
I
make
don't
sense.
know.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Um, cool. All right, so we are going over to the after party. Thank you all. Thank you all for contributing and hanging in for a cool convo. What's coming up? After parties next. It'll be in your hallway if you're following us. Saturday will be a regular listening session at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We haven't done one in a few weeks. So if you go to controlcamp.com, you can submit a song. This is not for the Epic Hip Hop Brief. So when you go to submit the song, you get a selection to say, am I submitting for the brief or am I submitting for the listening session? Make sure you say that you're submitting for the listening session, and don't submit a song both to the brief and the same song to both, because I want to hear fresh stuff for the listening session, and I want your feedback to be fresh for that. But if you want to submit a song and you want some feedback, uh, uh, constructive, objective feedback, go to controlcamp.com. You can submit a song, ideally a streaming link, but you can also put MP3s on there. But streaming links are best. So we're doing that Saturday. And then Sunday, we're having a film score convo with me and Matt Head. Hopefully, Andrew will be able to join us. That is at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We always put a question mark on that because sometimes on Sundays Mac gets called away at the last minute. He's actually working on a few shows right now, and so we try to do them at 1 p.m. But pay attention to